Morning everyone, thanks for joining us this morning for our first ever Women Ed England event, where we hope to introduce you to some of the new voices in our community. We are recording today's session so that it can be accessible later on, and we'll divide it into different chapters for YouTube and for different, so you can access different speakers. So just before we begin for some of you it'll be a recap on what you already know about Women Ed, but I'm sure we have many people here today that this will be their first event. So to give them just a flavour of who we are and what we do. So Women Ed began a few years ago now with a group of women who got together for on Twitter and then for afternoon tea, and they decided that they were inspired to make a change for the better for women working in education. So the mission became more women in education to have the choice to progress on to lead in their leadership journey. And that is the really important word here, is to have the choice. It doesn't have to be the expectation, but to have that option and to have that available and accessible for all women. And then we look at why this actually came about, what the challenge was that we were actually facing. So this slide and the graphic that follows were the two original challenges which motivated Women Ed. And if we think about the overall teaching workforce that we have in education, we have 26% of the workforce are male and 74% are female. And that's fine, but when we actually look at leadership and representation, we can see that that's not reflected. Firstly, when we look at our primary colleagues, if you take a moment to have a look at statistics, we can see that actually men are more represented in leadership roles than women. And it doesn't get any better when we look at our secondary colleagues, where we can see that despite the fact that the majority of the workforce is female, a significant proportion of leaders are actually male. And this was the data that prompted Women Ed to actually be set up and established. Further to that, the gender gap is still alive and well when it comes to pay. And these are just some of the statistics that we see around pay in education at different levels. And overall, women are paid less for doing the same role and the same job as their male counterparts. So these were the initial challenges and the statistics that prompted the establishment of Women Ed. However, over time, we've actually developed a range of campaigns and what we are exploring. And you'll see that we now have 4 campaigns from our original 2. So increase representation in leadership roles, reduce the gender pay gap, advocate for flexible working practices to make education a more inclusive working environment. And that's not just for women, that's for everyone who wants to have that flexibility. And finally, our latest area and our campaign is looking at diversity. So as a Women Ed England team, we are specifically focusing on supporting our Black and Asian colleagues, as these are 2 of the key groups that are underrepresented in leadership in England and across the UK. And as we're a global organisation, diversity might mean different things to different groups and in different countries across the world. So that's what we're focusing on for this year. And all of this work happens around our 9 key values. So we think about clarity. Clarity is about our mission and what we are trying to achieve. Communication is actively seek to promote the Women Ed mission and what we are trying to achieve, and engage as many people into that as possible by building on their existing social media presence and creating new communities. Our connection is about connecting existing and aspiring leaders and those who support them, so that we can build each other's confidence and take opportunities to be 10% braver, and really celebrate when that happens. Because sometimes, even when we are 10% braver, we're not willing to acknowledge our success. So it's really important that we support each other to do that. Collaboration is enhanced collaboration and the sharing of our experiences, because we have so much to give and so much that we can learn from each other. We have we work hard to create our community, and we're a global community now, and it's to create a really inclusive and interactive community where everyone feels safe to share their ideas and share their opinions, and we identify those potential barriers together and come up with solutions as a community. And that community has grown and grown. So we have 29 networks now in 19 countries. We explore challenge, we consider challenge and identifying the key challenges that women face working in education, whether that's an individual, whether it's at a systemic level, or organisation. And finally, change. Very clear about what changes we want to make and how we can try and collate evidence of the impact that we are actually having on our community and the people who are part of that. So our impact then, in summary, if we have a look at the next slide. As you can see, we've only been established as Women Ed England since May 2020, and we have over 500 followers. But today we hope that you're going to start following us on Twitter, so we'll have even more. And we have lots of collaborations ongoing and partnerships. In particular, the partnership with the National College of Leadership that was announced in May. And if anyone has not come across that, if you type in that to Google, it will come up with some details for any female leaders out there who are looking to gain further qualifications. And the real benefit of this is that it's fully funded out of the apprenticeship levy as well, and that's just one partnership. And finally, we have already published one book edited by Vivian and Kezia, and then we have another book that's been published in December 2020. And while Vivian and Kezia edit these books, actually they are the stories of our community. These are different people who are part of the Women Ed community and have wrote their stories about their experiences or what they hope to achieve and what impact Women Ed has had, or what we hope to do in the future as well. And the final thing to introduce you to is the Women Ed team. So we now have 7 national leaders across the country working in different areas, and we'll introduce you to each of those individually at the end. As you can see, I'm Paula Delaney as one of them, but we'll hear more about that afterwards. First of all, let's get started with our first new voice. So we have Dena, who's going to speak to us about outward facing leadership. So all I have to do now is promote Dena to panelist so that Dena can then take over the remote control. This is where I have learned lots of new tech. And Dena, you should have control now and be able to...
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep, can do.
Excellent. Okay, I don't think I can appear on camera. It's not allowing me to, but I am here, so... So yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm Dena Eden. I'm an English teacher in Norfolk, and I'm super duper excited to be part of the new voices for Women Ed England. A little bit daunted as well, I'm not going to lie, but definitely excited. So today, as Paula said, I'll be talking about outward facing leadership, and primarily about how that has had such a positive impact on me, and the women that I've had around me in my career in education so far have inspired me to be 10% braver, and kind of pushed me on the amazing journey that I have had. So my journey has been... Bear with me, sorry. Paula, sorry. There shouldn't be any sound on those slides. Can that be taken off?
It should now be gone.
Excellent, I'll try again, thank you.
So my journey has been a short one. Yes.
No, it's still there, Paula, sorry. Don't worry, I've managed to mute it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Nothing goes ahead without a technical issue, which I'm sure you've all experienced. So my journey, I was actually an NQT only 2 years ago, so it's been a really short journey, but it has been a jam-packed one. In my NQT year, I was really determined to make sure that I learned as much as possible from as many people as possible. And to do that, I signed up to loads of extra CPD that I researched myself, and then just went to my head of teaching and learning and had a quick chat and said, look, this is something I'm interested in. It can help me in the school in this way. Can I do it? And I was so fortunate that she was very enthusiastic, equally as interested in educational research as I was. And I got the go ahead on pretty much everything I wanted to do. I also took the opportunity to lead low stake projects in the school. What I mean by that is projects where there was no real fallout if anything went wrong. I didn't have to show any evidence or any progress, but what I could show was that I could lead projects and that I could speak to loads of different outside organisations as well as lots of students within the school and make those connections. So that was pretty much what I focused on for that first year. I then completed my master's in educational practice and research. So I started that in January of my NQT year and completed it January just gone. And then this year, my NQT +1, I was literacy lead for the pupil premium students across the school, which meant that I was obviously having to use a lot of action plans, provide evidence for interventions, measurable outcomes, etc. I was also NQT mentor and also arranged a German exchange with our school for the disadvantaged students, which again, a very busy year, but I feel like I learned a lot from it. And again, all thanks to the support from incredible leaders that I had around me. All of that has actually led to me sadly leaving my current school, and as of September I will very, very excitingly be taking the position of English Standards Leader at a completely different trust. So I do have the mentors and the people around me to thank for that. Now the impact of that outward facing leadership that I've come across is I've tried to narrow it down into some of the values of Women Ed. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my slides. I've tried to narrow it down into the values of Women Ed, and I thought that I'd be able to do it only into about 3 or 4 to keep it short, but actually I found that the outward facing leadership I'd come across covered quite a lot of them. I can't get onto that slide, so if you just ignore the slide you can see there we go. So first of all, collaboration. All of the women that have been leaders around me have always treated me as an equal. So they valued my opinions, they've made me feel like my opinion was just as valid as theirs, and I've always felt really heard. Communication wise, they've always been honest with me, which in turn has meant that I could ask them a gazillion questions, and trust me, I have done that. Confidence, seeing them be so confident in their own actions, their own steps up into leadership, has made me realise that I can do that and there's nothing standing in my way. Connections, they've taught me that the importance of other people should never be underestimated. Everybody knows something that you don't, and making sure that you maintain and build really good connections with a variety of people will stand you in good stead for years and years. So that's been a really important thing I've learned. Change, rather than just being happy and comfortable with change, the women around me in leadership have shown me that it's good to actually seek change out. Keeping up to date with research, making sure that you don't kind of get too settled at any point, and that you're constantly wanting to change your practice and the people around you's practice as well. And then finally, the challenge. So never at any point, even in my training year when I had an outstanding mentor, she never let me just tick the boxes. She always pushed me and said, we know you can do more than that, let's do more than that. So with all of that experience, I'm going to make sure that in my future leadership, I will take on all of the things that they've taught me. And I'm hoping in my role from September that as a future leader, I will be outward facing, I'll be open-minded, I'll be honest. And the really important thing I wanted to point out as well, which I think as women, we're naturally marginalised in society. We know what that feels like. As a gay woman myself, I feel that even more some days, I think. And in light of that, as a leader, I want to make sure that I really emphasise that inclusion and that we're stronger as a team. I never want to feel like a woman who's got to the top and therefore I want to keep all of the women from getting there, so I'm the only one. I think it's really important for us to help each other, climb on each other's backs, help each other up, and all stay at the top together. And I think that's my major aim for when I am a leader. And then finally, just being ourselves. Everyone has strengths, and I think the best leaders out there are the people that play to the strengths that they have. So yeah, that's my little nuggets of wisdom, all stolen from my incredible mentors and teaching me to be 10% braver. So thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of the presentations today.
Thank you so much, Dana. And you know what? Thank you so much for going first and bearing with me while I do the tech from behind. You were amazing, and I think you are an inspiration as a leader now. And I'm sure lots of people will be able to kind of, your story and your experiences will resonate with a lot of people, but will also inspire a lot of people as well. So the next person that we have coming up is Kathleen. I'm going to leave Kathleen to introduce herself. However, I'm going to say, Kathleen, if you can turn on your camera if you want and unmute yourself now, because I'm going to hand over controls to you shortly. I feel like I need to do this disclaimer so that we don't face any other technical hitches. So Kathleen, if you can unmute yourself, and if you want to turn on your camera, do so now, and then I'm going to hand over the control for the screen view.
Okay, so I'm Kathleen Cushnie. I'm a deputy head at a school in North London, and I'm going to be talking to you today about, oh, my screen's just gone. Sorry, my screen has just gone.
Can I help?
I'm back, sorry.
All right.
I'm going to be talking to you about communication and the importance of that. The sounds come off. Sorry, the sound has come off. Is across the borough. This sound has disappeared from this one. I'm so sorry. Right now I have opportunities. Sorry for the technical difficulties. This is my second slide, but there is
Kathleen,
sound.
if you just let me control the slides for a second,
Okay.
and I'll sort it out now.
Okay, while Paula is sorting that out, good morning, everybody. Can I just please remind you that it's #WomenEd, and please follow us on Women Ed England, at Women Ed England. I'm hoping we can get, with everybody tweeting and retweeting, to at least 1,000 followers today, okay? That is our Women Ed England goal, is to get to at least 1,000 followers.
Okay, Kathleen, we should have sound back now. It should be okay. I've shared sound from the screen now. So have a try now.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to thank the ladies at Women Ed England for the opportunity to use my voice on this platform. I will be speaking about communication, one of the 8 values, and what this means to me. Although this is a virtual event, it will still be interactive, so I will ask you to join in one of these ways, or perhaps both. So if something resonates with you, please raise your hand or tweet it using the hashtag #WomenEdEngland and #NewVoices. So your voice is your superpower. Absolutely. Your voice is your fingerprint, and it is unique to you. It conveys your stories, your experiences, and your viewpoints. It's crucial. Your journey is vital, but how will anyone know if it's not communicated? My voice is my superpower, but mine hasn't always been, and I'm still. Right now, I have opportunities like this to share my experiences. I train and lead teachers across the borough, and I support leaders in other schools, but it hasn't always been this way. If I take you back to, I would like to share a story of when I was an NQT. I was struggling, I was trying to prove myself. I didn't want to ask for help because I thought I could do this alone. The lack or inability to use my voice was coming at a cost to my health. I just wanted to get through everything by myself. I thought, I can do this. You know, I'm an NQT, I've had my year's training, I can do this, I don't need the help. But the cost was that my eczema was doing the talking. My skin had flared up, it was raw. I drive home with one hand on the wheel and the other hand behind my knee, scratching until I got relief. Now the thing is that all this changed once I had the courage to ask for help, just to simply ask for support. I used my voice to communicate my needs. All I did was say, I'm struggling, can you just help me and support me with my class? Now the key thing here is that we all need help, and we must ask. Everybody, absolutely everybody, regardless of how strong they may appear, all of their achievements, they've always asked and had support along the way. So we all need to help, and we must ask for it. Likewise, if we see that someone needs support, we should offer, especially during these challenging times and everything that's been going on lately with the pandemic. As Baron Brown said, we don't have to do it all alone. We were never meant to. So communication is key. Maya Angelou stated.
Sorry, the sound has gone again.
Please bear with us, everybody. We're just having a few technical issues again with the sound. If you haven't already, can I please encourage everybody to be tweeting, tweet us at Women Ed England, and please use the hashtag WomenEd.
So as I was saying, one of the quotes from Brené Brown that I found really, really inspiring was that, you know, we're not meant to do this by ourselves. We need to step up and make a change. What I aim to do, one of the things that's really important to me throughout this whole experience is to raise and amplify voices of other women. So what I'm aiming to do is to set up a blog that interviews women about their experiences and how they have felt on their journeys and how they've used their voice to empower themselves. It's important that we speak up about our concerns, and one of the key things really that I think is important is that we speak up when we may feel that we're facing conflict. So what I want you to do really, if you're listening, is to consider this challenge and ask yourself this one question. How has your voice held you back? Can you think of one example where your voice has held you back? What was the cost of that? What did you miss out? Another way to think about that is if you didn't speak up, if your voice failed you, what have you missed out on? And I think it's really important that we value our voice and understand how important it is in moving ourselves forward, but not only moving ourselves forward, but how it amplifies other people and impacts other people to speak up for themselves. And then we're all moving forward to make a change. So that is the importance of the voice to me. And one thing that I want to say is that it's a two-way communication. So what I would say is that when you're speaking to people, it's a two-way conversation in terms of they have got something to say that you may learn from, and likewise, you may be impacting them unknown to you.
Today I'm a leader. I lead. Maya Angelou stated, when someone shows you who they are, why don't you believe them? So let's flip the script. Use your voice and show people who you are so they can believe you. Remember, your voice is your superpower.
So powerful. Thank you so much, Kathleen Cushnie. You can follow Kathleen at Voicing Ed. And I hope everybody really, really thinks about the challenge that she gave us, considering the impact that our voice has. Next, we have the absolutely fantastic Melinda Jones, who will be talking to us about the impact that making connections in education has had on her career. Over to you, Melinda.
Hi. Hello, my name is Melinda Jones, and I'm going to be talking to you about how the connections I've made has helped me in education. So just to first off start about me, I'm a physical and sport education graduate. I've worked in a PRU, I've worked in a primary school, and I've also worked in secondary school. All based around, in secondary school, all based around physical education, PE teaching assistant, and in a primary school, I was working with ASD students, and in a PRU, I was working with general educational issues that the children had, and also secondary, I was again working with autism. I also have a background in health and fitness, and however, my future is to be a physical education teacher. So my first connection was made in East London University. I went there for an initial teacher training interview, and the interviewee, who is Miss Dr. Shreehan Lynch, she asked me a social issue question. However, I didn't really understand it until I thought about it later on. And also, that also linked to me then getting involved with BAME Ed and BAME PE, just starting off my teacher training journey, which, however, wasn't with East London University, which was a mistake I made. However, I've now come to realize that that is where I want to be, and that is where I do see myself training eventually. And I'm willing to wait for that role because it does mean a lot to me. So that then led me on to looking at BAME education and BAME in PE, and really looking at how I didn't see people of Black and ethnic minorities in PE, because that's what I want to do I'm Black and I'm a Black woman living in London. And throughout my work history, I'd never saw anybody that looked like me in a PE role. So I was really thinking, like, where are these people? They must be somewhere, but I just didn't see them. So that led me to engaging a lot with BAME Ed and BAME PE, where I went to attended their events at East London University. And during that process, it did help me understand and the social issues around PE, especially for girls and Black boys and girls. And it also made me question my previous experiences and thoughts that I had of PE, and question some of the things that I might have seen and heard from PE teachers when they're teaching certain children of ethnic minorities. And I feel like I want to be there to stand up for them when it comes to those conversations that they might be having with the teachers. So that led me, again, to just dig deep and just search out anything that I could find, read, and anybody that was speaking about it, listen to everybody's stories and everybody's issues and solutions that they may have come up with. So my first thing was to get onto Twitter. So like I said, I didn't go to university for training. I ended up taking another route, and I felt that I wasn't really being supported as much being a Black female in PE teaching. So I was just trying to follow all the educators I knew, all the schools I could think of, all the PE departments I could think of, and again, all the educational websites, Twitters, boroughs, just to see what was out there and what could I get from those people that were more that have been into education a long time at those higher levels, and what they're saying about what's happening in their schools and what's happening especially in the PE departments, and to again recognize where I might fit in, if I could find a place that I could fit in, and I just wouldn't be the only one there, which it can be like that. You can be, unless it's a subject like, I don't want to generalize, but English, maths, science, the PE for BAME is really, really small from my perspective. But obviously now that I've come out and I've been connecting with other people on Twitter and this platform as well, which I never really thought I would get onto. I had no idea that it was such a big thing, but it has, again, made me think about how I need to, I think like the previous presentation just said, use my voice to tell my story and to stand up for what I want and how I want to get there, and not just go for any old thing, which is what I did when I took up the training that I did. I just went there just because I just wanted to teach PE, but I had forgotten about my values and how I looked at PE as not just teaching, but the social aspect, the physical aspect, lifelong learning of PE, and how sometimes in a classroom, those can be not as recognized. And it is just about learning a skill and learning to the book and getting through the exam, where you've got to realize that they're children and young adults, and you need to let them know that beyond education, there are other things that you can get involved in. And if there are issues, you can be someone that they can go and speak to. That is something that I'm really, really conscious of when I do end up getting into teaching. And so the next steps for me will be just to continue to connect with people in education, with Women Ed, with East London University, with BAME Ed, BAME PE, everything, schools, everything. And then also I would like to take up teacher training. This year has been a bit of a weird one because of the COVID. And like I said, initially I did get onto a course, but just because it just wasn't my fit, it just wasn't working for me, I had to leave it early. I didn't just want to train and just come out with a piece of paper. I wanted to be able to learn something about teaching, learn something about how you connect with the children, but I didn't feel I was getting that. So I had to leave. But it was a good thing for me because it was a lot of stress. And when I left, I just felt as if I could breathe again. So I'm continuing my journey, nothing's setting me back. At least I have a little bit of knowledge from there that I could probably take forward with me. I'm not going to see it as a waste of time, but it just wasn't right for me at that time. And then from leaving that, I managed to get a small role working with SEN autism in a primary school. That is, again, another one of it's my interest, and I like it because children on the autism spectrum, they're really nice and kind, and you get to know them on a different level. And yeah, we say they obsess about things, but it's their interest. And I feel like I can really relate to that no matter what it is. I make good connections with children. And I feel that's one of my gifts as an up and coming teacher in the education sector. And again, just continue to just network and just follow, go to as many events as I can when we can go to events. And that was my initial reasoning. I just wanted to get out there and kind of get off of my chest what I was going through as well at the time. So that's why I was able to just let everything out. And I think that's why I'm at a good place now. So, and I'm just going to continue to do that. Just speak up, try not to hold everything in, just get it off my chest and just put myself out there. And this is one of the things I've done. I've put myself out there, which it's a bit scary, but I've done it now. Thank you for listening. And I'm happy that you came to this talk today.
Wow, Melinda, that was absolutely fantastic. I was trying to hold back tears, Hila, because I know the journey that you have been on over the past few years. So just absolutely amazing. Everybody, you can follow Melinda on Twitter at Melinda90Mel. Please give her a follow. Thank you very, very much. And I hope you read the chat because a lot of people are really resonating with what you've said. So our next speaker up is Emma Kirby. Emma Kirby is a new speaker and also new to Twitter. She just joined Twitter, I believe, yesterday. So you can follow her, Emma Kirby73, and she will be speaking about leadership. Over to you when you're ready, Emma.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I just tried to start my video. I thought you might like to see me, but my host has stopped it, apparently.
Hang on, I'm working on it.
That's all right.
Bear with me. Oh, gosh. Right.
So while we're working on that, just a reminder, it's Emma Kirby73 on Twitter. Please give her a follow.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm joining you from a gloomy Bristol. I only joined Twitter yesterday, so I don't have many followers. It's not because I probably haven't got many friends either, but please join me. And if Paula can get the video working, then you're welcome to see me too.
I'll keep working on it, Emma.
You keep working on it, okay.
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay. So let me just move that out the way a little. So, so my name's Emma Kirby. I am just about to go into my 24th year as an educator. Inspired by my own teachers, I pursued a degree in Latin American studies with Spanish and Portuguese. And I discovered my love of teaching whilst teaching at university in Mexico in 1997. And upon returning to the UK, I completed my PGCE. I became an advanced skills teacher in 2004, and I'm currently head of languages at a very large 11 to 18 secondary school on the outskirts of Bristol. I'm also just about to start a role on the senior leadership team at my school as an associate assistant head teacher with responsibility for raising standards in Key Stage 3. So I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes this morning just about my journey, and specifically how over the last couple of years I've brought a team together under my leadership. I've been a leader in over those 20 odd years in many different scenarios: PGCE, NQT mentoring, as a head of year, running trust-wide CPD. Yet it's only now that I'm beginning to find my voice as a leader, and I'm learning how to use it to influence others and bring about change. So I'm always being told, we always knew you'd be a teacher, you were a born teacher, born leader, but I was never going to be a teacher. I was going to be an air stewardess, travel the world, use my languages, and then I was going to work for an international charity. There's no doubt that I love to talk, and you can ask anyone who knows me, but I'm not very confident in talking about myself and acknowledging my own successes. So this presentation has been a challenge. The core values of Women Ed resonate strongly with me, and you'll see that I mention them throughout my presentation, as they very much form part of who I am and what I do. I took up the post of head of languages in my own school, having been deputy head of sixth form for 9 years. The previous head of MFL had been in post for 16 years, and the faculty desperately needed a new direction. Bringing about that change from within the faculty as an existing member of staff was going to be a huge challenge. Most of the team were on board, but some weren't. So the first thing that I had to address, first and foremost, I needed to have the confidence in my own ability to lead, and to facilitate that move to a new role. Some external support was provided, and a coaching relationship was established between Rosanna Raimato of Women Ed Italy and myself, who at the time was based in Bristol. And the way that Rosanna skillfully guided me through that first year as head of faculty was incredible. She believed in me, and she gave me the space to explore my ideas, challenging me, but in a supportive way, and helping me to articulate my ideas and my vision for the faculty. I believe there was a genuine connection between us. Rosanna had been in the same position as me. She had been a head of department, and she had also worked her way up to senior leadership. I think that Rosanna saw my potential and encouraged me to believe in myself, and to lead from the front. Just see if I can put the video on. Yeah, I just flicked back into that screen. Hi everybody. So once I'd found that confidence in my ability to lead, the next step was to consider the type of faculty that I wanted to create and to work in. And the most important thing for me was is to create an environment where people can come to work and to be their best. And I knew that the faculty had to change, and that clearly communicating my vision with the team, it's quite a large team at the time, 8 teachers for MFL, that's quite large. And I knew that communicating that vision with the team was going to be the key to its success. And getting the team to see the benefits of change was essential, as was making the whole team feel included in that process. So moving forward, collaboration at every level became embedded in everything we did. So from discussing and sharing lesson plans and teaching ideas to shaping the new curriculum, everyone had a voice, everyone was listened to, and everyone was valued. It's probably worth saying there that unusually we have this year almost a 50-50 split male and female MFL teachers, which is fantastic, but can be quite unusual. So we created a culture where experimenting in your teaching was encouraged. And this was embraced by what is quite an experienced faculty in terms of number of years teaching. And we developed an understanding that it's okay to get things wrong, but it isn't okay to do nothing about it. So even the most experienced teachers soon found a new sense of freedom in their teaching, and a renewed love of teaching as well. So Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And for me, this meant living out my values in everything I do, and by leading by example. And the trust that we created across the department has enabled us to build a strong community of motivated and like-minded languages teachers, who in turn pass that enthusiasm on to their students. I think the students see the passion and the love we have for our job, and they engage with us. Another factor that accelerated the improvement, the rapid improvement of the faculty, was my approach to reviewing and providing clarity around the roles and responsibilities of everyone in the department. So those who received money, or TLRs, for their additional responsibilities, and I had a second and a third in department, had their roles clearly defined. Providing clarity as to what everyone's roles were also helped colleagues to feel that they were achieving something and making a difference, and that they had an important part to play in the improvement journey of the faculty. Now, in the spirit of 10% braver, I carried out an informal 360 of my practice as a leader within the MFL department. I asked them, because I'm trying to get a better understanding of how I lead and what it is that I do. So I asked them how I lead and what it is that I do that brings about change. And I think it's the support and the trust I have in Women Ed and the group here today of speakers and delegates that means I feel comfortable with sharing their responses with you. This is what they said. So they began by telling me that I model the type of person I want to see in my team, and that I lead by example, and that I understand that it's getting the basics right that's so important, and this is where I always start. They said that I make the team feel included, and I make them feel that their ideas count. They also said that what I do works because everything I do has teaching and learning at the heart of it, and that if it isn't going to impact what's happening in the classroom, then I don't do it. They also said that I trust my team, and this is really important to me, as I want their trust, but I want trust to work both ways. And they also commented on my knack of being able to spot and nurture potential in people, and I think it's using my coaching skills that enables me to bring out the best in people. I mean, I'm truly humbled by their comments, and I am at this point very proud of the woman in leadership that I'm becoming. I couldn't have done it without having the many positive role models, most of them women, along the way. And I am really looking forward to and excited about the next part of my journey of continuing to empower colleagues to be their best and creating more leaders, especially women leaders. I think how I lead and how I bring about change is becoming clearer to me after 24 years. And being in a position where I can bring about positive change and have an impact is very, very important to me. I know the road will be bumpy, but I know that I have the support of colleagues around me, and I'm resolute in my determination to bring about positive change in education. I think it's my own experience of how education can completely change your life chances that influences everything I do, and I hope that I can bring those opportunities, similar opportunities, to my students. As daunting as this was, I've thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to reflect on my journey so far and to share it with you. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma. I think all of us can resonate in some way when thinking about clarity and the importance that that has on our journey as educators. Just a reminder to you all, Emma can now be found on Twitter as of yesterday, and that's Emma Kirby 73, and I have put that in the chat. So our next speaker, we can change. Our next speaker is Nicola McDermott, and Nicola will also be speaking to us about leadership.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Nicola.
Perfect. Okay, thank you again for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this session and to deliver to you this morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about challenge and how I've kept challenge in my career in education, and how I've taken ownership over that myself, rather than depending on kind of CPD budgets, line managers, senior leaders, and how I'm continuing to do that. So you can find me on Twitter, and I'm also part of Women Ed Jersey in the Channel Islands, so please give us a follow as well. think I've got control. I'm trying to change slides. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Hopefully I haven't skipped on too far. So I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about the start of my career. So I started teaching in 2012 as a teacher of philosophy and religious studies in a very male-dominated all-boys boarding school and grammar school. And I quickly realised that if I wanted any kind of further challenge and career progression, that I was going to have to take charge of that myself. The school was very much based on succession planning and years served versus the progress that you'd made as a teacher. So people were in the wings waiting for promotions for years and years. And I did face quite a lot of sexism and ageism when I was there as a very young female member of staff in a school that was dominated by older men who often were past pupils and would succeed into roles because of the years that they'd been at the school. So I volunteered to be AQA's CPD champion for a year, where I got free CPD for a whole year. So I just did every single course that they had on offer in order to build my CV. And I took on every single TLR that was going, even for very little money, because that was my way of building my experience and allowing myself to be ready for the next step. This was an outstanding school. And after 2 years there, and I'd exhausted AQA's CPD options, I'd done every TLR that nobody else wanted to do. I was looking for my next challenge, and coming from an outstanding boarding and grammar school, I wanted something completely different. And I actually went to be assistant head of faculty at a comprehensive school in a really deprived area of Merseyside, which was in special measures and was not doing well in terms of getting out of special measures. So the lessons that I learned is people tried to put me off that move, and I'll talk a little bit about what it was like when I got to that school, but it was a risk that was definitely worth taking. Another lesson that was learned was do the jobs nobody else wants to do, and do them to the best of your ability and make them your own, because it stood me in really good stead moving forward. So the next challenge in my career was obviously moving to the school that was in special measures. And I'm just trying to change slide again. There we go. So obviously I'd come from a school that was outstanding, straight into a school in special measures. We had 5 Ofsted inspections in 14 months. And we were a record-breaking school in the sense that we moved straight from special measures to good. We didn't go into requires improvement. So the CPD that I got there was incredible, but it was a very, very challenging school with serious behaviour issues. This was an amazing challenge for me, and I think taking that risk to move into a school that was in such a different context to the one I'd started in made me the teacher that I am today. I obviously had the CPD and the challenge of that move from, and obviously getting to grips with what Ofsted Outstanding looked like, ensuring that my team knew how to be an outstanding teacher under Ofsted. So my career was very Ofsted focused at that point. And I was promoted to head of faculty there. And after 3 years there, I was looking for the next challenge. So I thought I want a big change again. And I wanted to go and work for a teaching school where I had the opportunity to become a specialist leader in education. So I found a school that was advertising for a head of department, so a slight step down from a head of faculty, but I was immediately made specialist leader in education for literacy at that school. And I was sent to support a school also in a deprived area of Merseyside that was in requires improvement and had been for several years, and I helped them get ready for their Ofsted inspection and improve the standards of literacy and their reading ages. That was an amazing challenge again, and something that I had to volunteer to do and give up my spare time. A lot of my time was taken out of school so that I could be sent out to other schools that were in need of support, but I had to keep my standards in my department as high as they would be if I was in full time. I was then made lead teacher for Lancashire County Council as well, which again was even more time outside of school, after school, during my frees, going out and delivering CPD to secondary and primary schools across the UK alongside the Lancashire Agreed Syllabus. And I think, again, lessons learned about challenge in this role was that I'd looked out for opportunities that weren't necessarily coming from within the school I was working in. They were advertised by the local council, they required working outside of my own school context. And that again enabled me to be constantly challenged and pushed me to maintain my standards in the department, but required me to look outside of the school and classroom box for kind of promotion and new opportunities. And because I was outside of school so much, I had to learn to delegate and be okay with that. So making sure I had good staff and being comfortable with allowing them to run my department effectively when I was out of school. And I think that's something we really struggle to do sometimes as teachers, because we want to take control and ensure that our standards are maintained, and we want to do that ourselves. Okay. So at this point, I wanted, again, another challenge and a kind of change in my life. So I decided to move from the northwest of England to Jersey and the Channel Islands. This was a massive risk for me because I'd invested so much into my career in the UK, and I was very much on the Ofsted treadmill, and everything I did was focused on Ofsted. But I wanted to change my pace of life and give myself more time to do the other things that I enjoy. So like scuba diving, for example, I can do that on my doorstep here. Not something I necessarily wanted to do in Liverpool. So I thought that this would be an amazing thing, and that I'd love this new freedom and time and less of a kind of treadmill at work. But when I found myself sobbing in the assistant head's office because I missed the Ofsted framework so much and the rigour that comes with that, I knew that this was going to be probably the toughest challenge of my career, which was accepting that I wasn't always being challenged. So there were no behaviour issues. Ofsted aren't breathing down your neck. We're not inspected unless we request to be as an independent school. So this was a massive challenge for me, was accepting that I wouldn't necessarily always be on the edge of my seat. So I thought about how would I keep the challenge that I love and enjoy in my career, and take control of that myself. I'm just trying to change slides again. Okay, so I thought about what is it that I actually love about my job, which areas do I want to prioritise, and which areas of challenge do I want to keep in my posts. I'm just trying to change again, it's just a bit slow, sorry everybody. Okay, so I decided that the things I love about my job the most is having quantitative impact on the progress and attainment of pupils, and developing staff. So these are the two areas that I'm focusing on now. So I've started my NPQ SL, which again was having to seek out that challenge outside of my school and my context. I managed to get funding from the diocese to do that, so it didn't have any impact on school budgets. I didn't have to get it through SLT or anything. I could just do that myself. So I've done my NPQ SL, and again I focused on literacy and improving reading ages in the school I'm in now. So being able to see that quantitative impact in data is what really makes me, as sad as it is, really makes me happy in my job, where I can see I'm making a difference to the pupils. Developing staff, again, there isn't much career progression in the school I'm in now because people are there's long-standing staff. So I've become a Women Leading in Education coach for the Teaching Schools Council, which has taken over for the DFE's Women Leading in Education scheme. So if anyone is interested in being a coach or being coached, that's a great way of doing it, and you can do that remotely. And obviously through Women Ed Jersey, being able to have contact with other women in education locally, support them, offer CPD sessions, that's been massively interesting for me and empowering, being able to do that. And again, these are things that I can do whichever school I work in, and challenge that I can keep for myself ongoing in my career wherever I move to. That's my last slide. there we go. So I think what I've gained from all of this challenge in my career is I now have an understanding of how to keep the challenge in my job, but also keep a balance at home and be happy with having more time at home. I've abandoned this chase for the next promotion all the time because I'm now taking control of my own challenge and my own CPD outside of work. And I do feel very empowered by the Teaching Schools Council as a coach, offering CPD for the Government of Jersey and through Women Ed Jersey as well. And I'm really excited to continue my involvement in Women Ed England as well and globally. I'd love to have more involvement. And I think that this challenge that I create for myself that won't change when I change jobs is what kind of gives me reassurance that I will keep enjoying my job and my own CPD no matter where I work. And thank you very much for listening, everybody.
That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for talking to us about challenge. It's such an important value. I'm definitely going to be going away after today and thinking, what do I love about my job and how can I challenge myself to be better? You can find Nicola on Twitter at Nicola McDermott. So her name is spelt with double T, but on Twitter it is 1 T for Dermot. Next, we have Alice Codner at Miss Codner, and she will be speaking about finding her unique voice.
Hi everyone, my name's Alice Codner and thank you for listening to me today. I want to reflect a bit about the Women Ed value of challenge. And in this reflection, I want to share a bit of my story of finding my unique voice so that I can highlight the internal challenges that I, along with women around the world, have to face in order to start feeling confident about myself as a leader. This is why I feel so passionate about networks like Women Ed that embrace the equality of all women, men and everyone in between, in order that everyone might be able to express our full humanity and not be boxed into predefined expectations of what we should be like. So I grew up being explicitly taught that women should not lead. I was told repeatedly as a child that women who lead are bossy and overbearing and are taking the jobs that were preordained by God to be given to men, including headmaster, priest, and head of the family. This belief was reinforced at my church, where the male vicar ensured that women who wanted to speak were supervised by their husbands. At my school, where the male head teacher oversaw an all-female staff body, and at home, where I was told, you'll have to learn to cook and clean, or you'll never find a husband. Finding a husband being the ultimate point of life, of course. This, combined with a strict sexual ethic that put the responsibility on women to be uninteresting enough in every way to prevent the advances of men, who I was told were physically unable to control their libidos, led to an uncomfortable repression of myself that I am slowly learning to grow out of. It's worth pointing out that this wasn't the 50s. I grew up in the 90s in London. Ambition is an ugly trait in women. This is what I've been taught. And it's only recently, when arriving in my 30s, that I'm finally starting to own the ambition that is part of my nature. Because despite coming from a fundamentalist Christian background with no TV and a family obsessed with health foods long before it was fashionable, I've often found myself accidentally leading, carving out niche areas in which to do something positive. So at primary school, I started the Green Club, where without waiting for permission, I found a group to help me take over a patch of ground that was covered in weeds and turn it into a garden. Well, we campaigned around the playground for greater care for the environment. At secondary school, I started prayer meetings before the school day began, and at church, I preached to the youth group once a month. So So, while admittedly these are not roles that get you the popularity of being head girl, they taught me that I had a drive inside me that, when challenged, would only get stronger, morphing into a quiet determination to prove everyone wrong. I got into a selective secondary school despite being told aged 10 that there was no way I was clever enough. And I also got a theology degree from Oxford University despite being told aged 17 that my grades wouldn't be good enough. And it is worth pointing out at this point that both of these achievements were helped to a large degree, I know, by systems of privilege that I neither earned nor deserved. It was a quiet determination because really it was forbidden. I came out of full education with a strong don't rock the boat kind of mentality. I became a primary school teacher, specialising in early years and Key Stage 1, because I thought that this job would allow me to effect the greatest change to the greatest number of people. This profession, I believed naively, was the route to learning selfless love that would, of course, in time, change the world. I really wasn't ready for 3 years in a row of making 6- and 7-year-olds sit SATs tests, as well as the intense moderation scrutiny and Ofsted inspection. I felt really frustrated by the fact that I was barely coping in the classroom, let alone able to lead, or at least that was how I saw it. Somehow I felt like I'd sacrificed myself as I'd wished, but for something that seemed to do no good to anybody. Just as I'd done as a child, at this point I started to carve out a niche area in which to do something that I felt would bring real benefit to the community, that by now I was starting to love deeply. I realised I was done with selflessness. And what my school community needed more than anything else was to be myself as fully as possible. I applied for and received funding to put up raised vegetable beds around the school, and I supported teachers growing vegetables with their classes. Over time, this grew, despite, maybe because of, living in a deprived, built-up part of London. I led a team to start a school farm, welcoming sheep, goats and pigs for stays for a term each, as well as having our own chickens, rabbits and guinea pigs. Gradually, we're developing the curriculum to reconnect our community to the natural processes that we as humans are dependent on for life. Essentially, alongside the curriculum, and often through the curriculum, we now teach our children to light fires, grow courgettes, bottle feed sheep, save electricity and sleep in tents. And we welcome nurseries, care homes and neighbours to share in the joy of our grounds. I absolutely love my work and I really have missed it during the lockdown. Being myself, with all of my passion for holistic education, benefits both me and the children. However, this has only been possible because I was given part-time working hours. And when you hear that, you probably assume that I'm a mum with small children, but actually that's not the case. I want to raise the flag for those of us who need flexible or part-time working hours, simply in order to flourish and to give our best at school. I love school. Equally, to me, the sheer sensory input of school life can feel like an overwhelming bombardment that can drain my energy and leave me unable to do basic things like make dinner and make friends. There are lots of things that I enjoy in life. I like writing poetry and blog posts and painting, going to the allotment, praying, reading, watching the birds out of the window while I have a cup of tea. And despite my religious traditions, I am not willing to sacrifice my life for the school. Rather, I choose to live my life as fully as possible in order to share with the children and the school community the joy that comes with that. It's not only parents who need flexible working hours. We all have the right to ask for what we need. And if school leaders are wise and if they are able, then they will find ways of making it happen in order to include people of all different personalities to the benefit of the whole school community. So where next? Far from a single-minded determination to progress, I vacillate wildly between deciding to be a priest one day, a writer the next day, and the head teacher of the ultimate sustainable school the next day. Or maybe I'll go rogue and get arrested with Extinction Rebellion to try and see if that will help. Ideally, I would love to do all of these things. The point is that each step of the way I'm trying to, as Brené Brown puts it, choose courage over comfort, to make decisions that are 10% braver. I cannot decide the future, but I want to ensure that whatever I choose, it is not limited or shoeboxed by the life choices that society tells me go with being a woman. Rather, at each step, I will move further on into being my authentic self, finding my voice and letting it be heard for the good of my children, my community, myself, and all those I come across. So thank you, Women Ed, for providing a platform for the women like me who are still trying to move past the glass ceilings within ourselves. Maybe one day I will finally be ready to rock the boat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice, for your message on being hashtag 10% braver. You can all find Alice on Twitter, Miss Codner, that's MSCODNER. Next, we have Jas Edwards, and Jasmine is going to be speaking to us about diversifying the education curriculum. Over to you, Jasmine.
Okay, delay on my end. I'm just working on it.
You can all find Jasmine on Twitter, Miss J.R. Edwards.
Okay. The current challenge I have is that Jasmine is not coming up as being a speaker.
No, she should be there. Jasmine, can you speak?
I am, I'm here, yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
right.
Excellent.
I just don't have control of the screen.
Oh, right, okay. I just hadn't added you in, so that was, I couldn't find you because I hadn't done the move in. I'm assuming, Rema, you did the move in.
Yeah.
Okay. You have control now.
Brilliant, thank you. Morning everyone, so I am Jasmine. I'm going into my 6th year of teaching in September, and what's kind of always been at the core of my decision to be a teacher and the core of my classroom is diversity, and that is primarily due to the sort of lack of diversity that I encountered as a student at school, at university, as a trainee teacher, and looking at making education as diverse as possible for different ethnic groups, but also for students and people like myself that come from and are proud of coming from working class backgrounds. So that's really what I want to think about today. Why is it so important for us to be able to diversify education? So just change the slide. I think that Malcolm X sums it up perfectly for me, that education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And I think that in an ideal world, we all believe as educators that we are preparing effectively for the future. But following the recent sort of outcry and support from the Black Lives Matter movement, I don't think that we are. And I think that we need to have honest and frank conversations about what it means to prepare for the future and to make our sector as diverse as possible. And that for me includes thinking about what we're teaching and who we're teaching it to. How are we enriching and including our pupils and our staff? And who are we employing? Who are we putting in those classrooms? Who are we putting in positions of leadership? Who are we using as representation for our staff and our pupils? Because it is up to us. It's our future, and we need to make sure that we prepare for it as effectively as possible. So just reflecting a little bit on my own experience as a student and as a teacher, I feel like this image kind of sums it up perfectly. And I feel like this image is often used when talking in conjunction with ability, and rightly so, that we have sometimes an education system that doesn't always reflect the ability and the talent of everybody individually. And I don't feel that our education system always reflects the diversity of our country. We are a multicultural society, and it's absolutely fantastic and superb, but that isn't always represented in our classrooms at teacher level, at pupil level, at leadership level. For example, when I was at primary school in the 90s, I was one of maybe sort of 8 children that weren't white. And at one point, I think I was the only child in that school that was not white. As a result of that, I remember entering school in reception, being able to read fluently, but was placed in the lowest reading group possible, coming home with like a picture book, to which my mum was absolutely furious. And that kind of example of being held back from, I guess, my background as a working class girl and as a mixed race girl. Throughout my time at school, I encountered 4 educators that weren't white, and only one of those was a female. So that kind of level of representation was just never there for me as a student. And I really felt that, particularly at university, probably where I felt the most excluded within education, even though having secured the grades to get there, I felt almost stupid sometimes when I spoke, and that was down to, I guess, partly my accent, being, you can probably hear it, strong Birmingham accent. But again, that idea of not being represented ethnicity wise. So when I went to my first teaching placement, when I was training, I could not believe the diversity at the school that I was at on the staff body. It was absolutely incredible. And the naivety in me actually was kind of like, oh my goodness, there are this many teachers that aren't white. And that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but when you kind of take into context my experience, I'd never experienced such a wealth of diversity at teacher level. And I feel that having trained there for 6 to 8 weeks and then completing my NQT year there was really the success that I needed to kickstart my career. I was promoted at the end of my NQT year to 3rd in department. Within sort of my RQT year, I started to pick up roles within literacy and leading across literacy across the whole school. I led staff training a number of times, and then found the courage to jump ship, even though I didn't want to, and I loved the school, but to be 10% braver and to go for that 2nd in department role, which I am currently still a part of. And also just thinking about the curriculum and how the curriculum really isn't as diverse as it should be. I've been trying to do a lot of work over the past year or so within my department to really try and sort of make that curriculum as diverse as possible. So for example, one of the units that we do in year 7 now, when looking at slam poetry, is looking at the idea of voices of survival and looking at contemporary songs and pieces of art that actually promote different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds, so our pupils have that experience and that our staff are able to have that experience too. Change the slide again. Oh, I can't change the slide for some reason. Oh, there we go. So when thinking about my experience within education, from pupil level right up to teacher, I feel that this quote again sums it up perfectly. It's this idea that diversity is having a seat at the table, which I did and I had, and if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am. But then I do realise that I've had to work harder than some of my peers. I've had to fight harder to be heard, and that element of inclusion hasn't always been there. Having that voice at my training school and where I did my NQT year was absolutely vital for me, and it meant that I'm now in the position to feel confident to talk about bringing diversity to education. And I think that we need to make sure that we collaborate and we communicate with our staff, our pupils, but also our community and our parents. Often there will be parents and people in the wider community that have a connection with school that didn't have a positive experience. So when they come into parents' evenings or open evenings, they may feel that that level of representation isn't there for them or their children. And we need to make sure that we change that. We need to make sure that we diversify and decolonise the curriculum. It is not right that I did not read any more than one Black author at school, and I still remember it was Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. That's the only Black author that I read at school. I didn't even know who Maya Angelou was until I was 21 years of age at university, and that makes me feel both embarrassed but also annoyed that I didn't have that exposition of that at school. And we need to make sure that that's not the same for our pupils. We need to champion our students into higher education, into further education, if that's what they wish to pursue. And we also need to make sure that we champion our talented teachers into leadership. I'm really lucky that I've felt supported and having that voice and felt like I've belonged as part of a school setting. But I know for a fact that that's not the same for every other Black, Asian, ethnic minority teacher or teacher from a working class background who may often feel pushed out or that their voice doesn't have a place. And that just isn't something that we can allow going forward, I don't think. I think that it's really important that as teachers and as pupils that we have that sense of belonging and that we have that sense of feeling a part of a community. And I know that I felt that in my first school, and I definitely feel it in my second school too. And we need to make sure that that is the same for all staff everywhere. And I feel that we really need to create the sector that is the drive for change in society, because education is where everything starts. And if we don't become that drive or that force for change, then how can we expect the rest of the world to follow? So thank you to Women Ed for this opportunity to speak, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. I think those were very, very powerful words for you to end on. I think talking about diversification in the sense of class is something that we don't often hear people speaking about, and I can see a lot of people on the chat have really resonated with what you've had to say, so thank you so much. Our last speaker, and I'm very sad to say that because I could do this all day.
Not last.
Oh, not last.
Second last.
Second to last, look at that, woo! So our second to last speaker that we have is Geraldine Onek, and she's going to be talking about voice. We have such a theme here without even planning it. So over to you when you're ready, Geraldine.
Hi, I'm unable to start the video. Can you hear me though? Oh, hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, thank you for being patient. You know, it's been so many speakers and I've learned so much from this. So, I just want to give you a bit of a background. My name's Geraldine Onek. I'm a primary school teacher. However, I'm currently taking time out of my career to bring up my 3 young boys. So the name Geraldine is actually significant to who I am today. My father chose the name because he had high aspirations for me, even before I was actually born. I was named after Geraldine Ferraro, who was an American Democratic politician and was the first woman to be nominated for vice president by a major political party in the US. So my father believed that one day, I think he wanted me to become a leader, in spite of me being a female or even Black. So my paternal grandparents were illiterate, which spurred my own father to appreciate the importance of education and how it can create opportunities. So as a result, he worked hard and won a scholarship to study biomedical science in Lancaster University. And this was the beginning of the change he wanted for himself and for us, his children. We left Sudan, which is now known as South Sudan, and we moved to Lancaster as refugees during the Civil War. And it was my parents' intention to return after my father completed his studies and when it was safe. However, this wasn't the case. The Civil War continued and we were forced to seek asylum, and we have since made Lancaster our home, living here for almost 33 years. As a result, we began to adapt living in Lancaster, a predominantly white city. So first of all, my parents ensured I learned English, which meant they sacrificed speaking their mother tongue to me, just in order for me to be more accepted into today's society. I attended a local primary school, and it was here where I soon discovered how different I actually was. I was the only black child amongst 500 pupils. In spite of that, I did have a good primary education, and it was a happy time for me. And yes, there were a few instances of racism from children. But what I'm about to tell you is a memory that's remained with me until adulthood. It was a story told in our school assembly about a white pool of paint. So the story began in a world where everyone was black. And then one day, a pool of white was discovered. Everyone was intrigued and began to swim in this pool. And when they resurfaced, their skin tone was now white. Word spread and more people came. And the pool started to reduce. And eventually, only puddles of white remained. Those who arrived late simply put their palms of their hands and the soles of their feet in what was left. So if this tale wasn't already shocking enough, I, an 8-year-old, was then instructed by the teacher to come and stand at the front of the entire assembly and show my palms as proof. So even as a child, I knew there was no truth in that story, and all it did was actually alienate me even more and highlight my differences further. The teacher who told that story had simply just read a story from a syllabus, whatever it may have been, and not even questioned the content. The question is, would a teacher who was non-white have read that same story to an audience of impressionable children? So it's from that day on, I vowed to myself to use my voice and that I would speak up of any injustices, even if it meant challenging an elder. This was going to be a great trait, especially when I started secondary school, where I attended an all-girls grammar school. Most of the girls were from middle-class white backgrounds, but who seemed obscenely rich compared to me. I was already at a disadvantage. I came from a single-parent household and I was living in a council house. Yet my ability to speak confidently actually gained me popularity from my peers. Sometimes, though, speaking out came with a price. I started to get a reputation from some of the teachers. Even when I was doing well academically, my teachers didn't appreciate my attitude, and I felt I was starting to become singled out. Yet again, I was the only black pupil in 800. So I needed to ensure I worked even harder just in order to prove my worth. So now as a teacher, when I was working in London, I also witnessed how black pupils can sometimes be unfairly targeted for being loud or overly confident. One former colleague even cited one of the reasons of his mental breakdown was a black boy in his class. This child was 6 years old. And this particular boy was actually gifted. And the only problem was he didn't feel challenged enough in the classroom, so became bored and distracted. As I said, as a black teacher, I felt it was always my duty to speak up and defend those pupils, particularly those who were black, so they didn't become, yet another statistic. As we all know, black boys, unfortunately, are more than likely than any ethnicity group to be suspended, expelled, and failed by the education system. I think it's very important to have representation at all levels. Who's going to be able to understand and be able to empathize more than a person who looks just like them? So imagine, throughout my entire 18 years of education, from primary all the way to university, I had one black educator. Representation is key, and I feel this was the catalyst for me becoming a teacher. So after completing my first year of studies at university, I did most of my placements in mostly white areas in Lancashire. And there was something in me, I was intrigued to see what the other side of the spectrum looked like. So when the opportunity to attend a placement in Newham, London arose, I grabbed it with both hands. And it was here, for the first time in my life, as a black person, it was refreshing to be someone who wasn't the minority. I immediately felt inspired by my mentor, who was a black female, and I actually believe this played a significant role in the teacher I am today. The staffing there, again, reflected the school's makeup. Having such a diverse classroom of children meant that the learning was centred around them. The books we chose, the resources used, even the displays on the walls. It then made me reflect on my own experience as a child and how actually there was a lack of diversity in the books we read, even at secondary level. Some people might argue, okay, this is unnecessary in those schools where they're predominantly white. But this isn't just about educating those and giving them a better historical representation, or for Black and Asian children to learn about the biographies of their ancestors and people who look like them. Although it is important, what I'm saying is the Black curriculum should actually be taught in all schools, even if 100% of the pupils are white. Because it's important for all children to learn that, you know, those great men of history that we read about and dominate your history books, sometimes and often they have a complex and sometimes awful, sometimes awful individuals who operate within a wider context. And there's this image of this white savior and it's so powerful that it permeates in today's society and underpins racism on an individual and societal level. Yet recently, when the Black curriculum, an organisation who are trying to embed Black history into the curriculum, the State of Secretary rejected meeting them. As he stated, Gavin Williamson argued that the framework was already broad and balanced and flexible, therefore allowing schools to teach Black history, if they so wish to, though. So, however, without explicit reference of the national curriculum or exam specifications, schools and teachers are not encouraged to teach Black history, So as a teacher, I already know what strains we are under. You know, we have so much content to cover, pupils have assessments to pass, and there's simply not enough hours. But change needed to happen. So personally for me, I don't know what it was, what the catalyst was for this newfound fire of change I was craving. I don't know whether it's the horrendous murder of George Floyd that angered me so much, or actually whether the fact I have 3 mixed race boys who will most of them likely be treated as Black, I had to consider for. Either way, COVID took away my procrastination and I had to act. So when I attended the vigil of George Floyd in Lancaster, all of a sudden I was thrown into the spotlight as being one of the few Black people in Lancaster. I was interviewed by the local paper about my own experience of racism, and it was through this article I was quoted as being the quiet one, but not anymore. So recently I've spoken on Stand Up to Racism and represented the Black community at council, asking how they are going to help decolonise the city as well as our curriculum. I'm also working with head teachers in how to embed Black history into their curriculum. And with myself and a friend have set up a group, Black History of Lancaster, to find out our hidden histories. I just want to say, I know today, especially the civil rights icon and Congressman John Lewis passed away. And a quote which sticks with me is, "Do not get lost in the sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Geraldine. Everybody in the chat and people on Twitter really appreciate you sharing your journey. And I personally think it's so important to hear the voices of Black people across the UK, because the experiences really do vary. And I think for those of us who live in London, sometimes we don't realise the experiences that others outside have. So thank you so much for that. And you can find Geraldine on Twitter, Geraldine Onek. Am I saying that correctly?
Onek like a snake.
Onek like a snake. Geraldine Onek like a snake. Geraldine joined Twitter this morning, I believe. Yeah. So please give her a follow. As you've seen, she has lots to say. Thank you. Thank you. This time is our last speaker. So now I'm doubly sad because I've had to say this twice. And we will be hearing from Sophia Haughton, who unfortunately is not on Twitter, but perhaps she'll see the accolades she gets from today and join us. And her talk is on the struggles with my hair.
I would like to talk today about the struggles with my hair. So, as I said, I was brought up in Wolverhampton. At the time, although there was lots of racial tensions, I had a nice upbringing in a multicultural area. I had lots of friends, multicultural friends. It was a multicultural neighbourhood. There were lots of people that mixed together. So I didn't feel any tensions. So, and actually I didn't really experience any overt racism, nothing that I can remember while, I was growing up in that neighbourhood. It wasn't until I started to apply for apprenticeships and I started to apply for university that I realised that there was something a little bit unusual about me when I was outside of my normal multicultural environment. However, one of the things that I had a big problem with when I was growing up was of my hair. And I have what you call type 4C hair, so it's very kinky, and like many other Black women, including myself, your kinks and curls and afro almost becomes a journey of self-love and self-discovery. Because afro hair has systematically been associated with negative stereotypes and such things as nappy, unprofessional and unkept are some of the negative things that we hear, or I have heard, about afro hair. So I've just got a little video that I'd just like to show you, just a quick clip.
What's happened? That's so terrible. A catastrophe.
But what happened to my hair? Normally it's straight. I was just walking down the hall when, poof, my whole head of hair puffed up just like that.
That's a nappy-headed hose there. I'm going to tell you that now. Oh, man, that's some... Ooh.
I think she's such a tiny frame that this hair to me overwhelms her. Like I feel like she smells like patchouli oil.
Yeah, so as you can see, and these are sort of some normal things that you might hear in a negative way about 4C type hair. However, in 1905, there's a lady called Madam C.J. Walker, and there's a really good film on Netflix about her. She revolutionised Black hair care products, and she was the first Black female to be a self-made millionaire because of the hair products and the advice that she was giving to Black women about their hair. And her hair products led to the way of re-establishing information that generations of slavery had destroyed. So what do I mean when I'm talking about 4C hair? So I've got a little video that should be able to explain a little bit more about what I mean about that type of hair, or my type of hair, should I say.
What is 4C hair? Now 4C hair is found in the hair typing chart, and it is mostly described as strands that will almost not clump together without the styling techniques. Type 4C hair can range from fine to thin to soft to coarse. It's also densely packed strands. And 4C hair also is tightly kinked and tightly curled with less definition, and it also can shrink up to more than 75% of its original length. This is how my 4C hair looks in its wet texture. So this is my natural hair texture with no product, no shampoo, no conditioner. This is how my natural hair looks. And this is how my natural hair looks once it's been air dried, with no other product in it apart from shea butter. This is just the natural hair texture of my 4C hair. Again, here is my natural 4C hair texture once it's been blow dried, blown out with heat with only natural shea butter in it, so no other products, and this is how my 4C hair looks. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it helped you.
So, well, I hope you found that interesting. So no one's hair has been more politicised the way that Black people's has. Even now we see stories about children, young Black children and young Black girls who've been suspended and put out of school because of the way that their hair grows naturally or because of the way that it has been styled. And even in September 2016, that's only like 4 years ago, a US federal court went so far as to legally ban dreadlocks in the workplace. And also you see on the screen a news story about a boy from Tipton who told his mum that he didn't want to be Black anymore after he was sent home from school because of his hair. And I have had similar experiences with my own children who have got a negative view about their hair and their hairstyles and their hair texture as well. So just a little video that I'd like to show you, just a very small snippet, sort of a historical context in relation to Afro hair.
The origin of these stereotypes are better understood through Black history, and it goes without saying that the colonisation of Africa from the 17th century onwards to this day has drastically affected ideals of Blackness. In the United States, African slaves were stripped of their rich heritage and elaborate native hairstyles, and over generations of brainwashing and enslavement, traditional hair information and routines were destroyed.
Previous to slavery, we had hairstyles and designs and colours and all sorts of things in Africa.
Black people who covered or wore their hair in relaxed hairstyles were considered to be more civilized in Western societies, to the extent that in 1786, Black women were required by law to cover their hair in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, so it was just a little brief history, and there's plenty of more information available online if you are interested. And to that end, while I was looking about Afro hair and during my journey of self-discovery, I found out that I was quite surprised about was that there was a World Afro Hair Day. Now, this was founded by a lady called Michelle de Leon, and she has chosen the 15th of September to be World Afro Hair Day. But she chose that for a specific reason, because on the 15th of September, as I said previously, 2016, a US federal court ruled that it was legal to ban dreadlocks in the workplace. So this is a barrier that is not faced by any other hair type in the world. And there is a bias against Afro hair in society, and that can lead to or create exclusion, shame, and a feeling of inferiority. And this also has a long-lasting impact on health, economic opportunity, especially for Black women who are pressurised to conform to society norms. Afro hair is rarely celebrated, and Afro Hair Day is a chance to do that. The first Afro Hair Day in 2017 was endorsed by the UN's Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights as well. So 15th of September, that's the day. And their vision is to create a platform to celebrate and educate people about Afro hair. And that's done through annual events. It's a worldwide network to unite people and to talk about Afro hair in a positive way, and also provide some opportunity to educate as well. So to summarise and keep the conversation going, celebrate your unique difference and embrace your self-image. Embed opportunities to celebrate diversity through the curriculum. Be prepared to listen to people's concerns, and don't worry if you don't know the answers, that's okay. Just work with others to find a solution. Find ambassadors and let them share their voice. And celebrate World Afro Day on the 15th of September. It'll be coming around soon. It will mean a lot to those of us with Afro type 4C kinky hair. Thank you very much, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to share with you today.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Unfortunately, Sophia is not yet on Twitter, but perhaps if we tweet about her a lot, she'll find out about it and join us. So the very last thing we have to do today is just to introduce our Women Ed England national team. This is the team who've worked so hard over the past few weeks to get this together for you today and have brought in all the new voices. So I will pass over to the team to introduce themselves.
Really sorry. I am trying to find Amanda to hand over to her, and I can't find Amanda in the attendees list. So it's my fault with the delay on that one. Hang on. Amanda, if you can put a message in the chat, then I'll know what your name is and what you've put as the name, and I can add you.
Oh, while we're just waiting for that, Sophia Haughton has started a Twitter. Yeah. So it is Haughton at Haughton Sophia. And if you look in the chat, she has sent a message there. So please do go out, please follow her, please at her, please tell everybody what an amazing talk she gave today.
Okay, Amanda
may have been disconnected, so perhaps we could go to somebody else and come back to her.
Yep, I think that's our best bet. So I'm going to go to Victoria next to introduce herself, but I will leave Amanda's details up here and we'll come back. So Victoria, you now have some controls if you want to introduce yourself and if you want to share an image of yourself.
Right, I'm actually, I've got my voice working, but I haven't got my video working, partly because I'm looking dreadful this morning, so I don't want you to see me. No, I just want to say about this morning, it's been absolutely fantastic. The voices, the new voices that we've had today, I've been brought to tears. I've had some laughter as well, but also just really inspired. And I think we gave this whole event a really big thought about when to have it. And we were thinking that, oh, this could be kind of like not such a positive idea, having it at the end of such a difficult time in schools and in the country after the pandemic and the schools, you know, coming to the end of term. But my word, those voices have energized me, and Twitter has been going absolutely crazy. And I think it's been energizing so many other people as well. So I just want to thank all those speakers. I think you've been amazing today. You've been 10% braver. You've really made people think, and you're actually causing people to really want to take action over some really, really important issues. So thank you and well done. I'm really, really pleased and proud of you all.
Thanks, Victoria.
So I'm just going to do a quick introduction for Amanda. So Amanda Costello is our lead for Women Ed Yorkshire and the Humber. You can find them at Women Ed Y and H. If you are in that region, even if you're not, please give them a follow. Keep up with what they're doing throughout the year.
All right, the next person that we have up is Claire. So Claire, I'm just giving you your capacity to unmute, and Sue has give you over some control.
When you're ready, Claire.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realise I was on. I don't know if you can see me. I am absolutely blown away by today. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Absolutely blown away today. I am so proud that these absolutely powerful, inspirational women within have chosen to share their stories with us on our essay of our Women Ed England launch. I don't know about you, I was absolutely exhausted yesterday. Today I feel like I could go back out and change the education system again. Thank you for being here. And you can see who I am, what I am there. And hopefully we have more new voices joining us at Amplify by being together, standing on each other's shoulders, helping us read it, celebrating when we do something great. Challenge to stay to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. I think it might, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi, and I hope it's not, considering I have the PowerPoint, but broke up a little bit at the end. And but I know, Claire, that you are always so, you welcome people to get in contact, and you're always so supportive of everyone, because I know you've coached me as well. So anyone that missed the last couple of sentences of that message, just ask Claire and she'll let you know. Next up we have Ruth.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, hear you, see you, we've got you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I'm Ruth Golding. I'm down here in Plymouth and I'm working with the Women Ed South West group, and Women Ed Jersey. So if you want to join those, that'll be absolutely fantastic. We've got fantastic leaders down here: Palm Plummer, Nat Wilcox, Andrea William Jones, Nicola Moody and Deborah Camp. And I just want to say about today, you know, if we ever needed to know why representation is really important at all levels, we just look and hear the women who have talked today. And I think it's our duty as Women Ed England to actually go out and find all of these women who will take our society forward and make our education system as representative as it can be. I feel in the 21st century to not have Black people, Asian minority ethnic groups on the curriculum, to not include people who have stories around LGBT or disability is an absolute crime. And I hope that Women Ed England can really pursue that work that Women Ed has done to make us go forward even further. So thanks to everyone who's presented as well. You've been brilliant.
Thanks, Ruth. Next up we have Christella.
Hi, I'm going to echo everyone's sentiments today, because I think the inclusion, the power, the love we felt today is the reason why I joined Women Ed. My pinned tweet, I'm going to quote from it because it was a while ago I posted it, but I've put that often the strongest people I've met have usually been through the most challenging experiences in life. Instead of allowing those experiences to harden them or choosing to become mean and bitter, they found strength, kindness, compassion and love. And I think that's what I heard today. So well done to all our speakers, our new voices. Thank you for amplifying. Some of you called your voices silent. Well, they're no longer silent. So I think with open arms, we've welcomed you. I think we're going to become stronger and even more efficient, and our impact will be even greater because of you. Thank you for this morning.
Thank you, Christella. Mareme.
I was going to say good morning, but no, it's still 11:58. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been the little voice in the background introducing all our speakers. And I would just really like to say thank you so much for joining us for our launch today. Thank you for being so interactive, all the positive words you've had to say for our speakers. Every single person who has spoken today is a new voice. They either haven't spoken at Women Ed before, and most of them have never spoken in a public forum like this outside of their classroom. So just thank you so much for being so positive and so encouraging. I would also like to put a shout out that if you are a new voice, please get in touch with us. You know, this is what we really want to do as an England team, is to, as somebody said in the chat, send the ladder back down for those who haven't had a chance. I'm just sorry, I'm looking at the chat. So please get in touch. You'll see on the final slide all of our @. And someone's just said about my background. Yeah, I collect black dolls. So if anybody's interested in black dolls, come and speak to me. My Twitter is @mmuffwoko. Thank you.
I am last up. Just need to find where our camera is. So to echo what everyone else has said this morning, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for bearing with me on the tech and getting the videos sorted and getting everything going. Just to let you know as well, when everyone was coming up, everyone's names coming up, we also had the regions that they were that they kind of support and help out in. And so between myself, Christella and Mareme, we're there to support Women Ed London, and we're going to be supporting Women Ed South East and Women Ed Eastern as well. And as Mareme said, we'll have all the contacts on the final slide, but it's just a massive thank you to you for joining us in our first ever event, and to all the speakers. I was sat here trying to contain myself and giving rounds of applause at the end of when everyone was speaking. And then there were times when you might have noticed there was a bit of a slow handover because I was so busy clapping that I'd forgotten to actually hand over controls for the next person. But they were just absolutely amazing and so inspiring as well. But thank you again, and we'll see you soon at our next event. I'll just bring up the contacts so that you know where to find us anytime, and we look forward to having you speak next time that we have an event.